Hello again. This is a video about finding good evidence to use in your research paper. As you are reading articles and pulling information out, not all details, facts, etc. are as useful as others. So I'm going to help you determine between what's a really great detail or fact to pull out and what's kind of what I call a duh detail that doesn't necessarily need to be taken note of or pulled out while you are note taking or creating your outline. So just to remind you about your outline, you're at the point where you're probably deciding what pieces of evidence to pull out for your body paragraph and what pieces of evidence you really want to focus on in the solutions paragraphs. So here's your outline. I'm just focusing in on these body paragraphs right now. You've really only got one paragraph for problem and two for solution. So you want to pick these three pieces of evidence, A, B, and C, these three facts or details or statistics really, really well. You want to be as convincing as possible that that's a problem that you think is a huge problem that exists in our world today. Same thing in solutions. When you are going to present a solution you think is effective, you want to really prove that these three pieces of evidence these are good pieces of evidence to prove that your solution is effective. Same thing here. You've only got a few opportunities and two paragraphs worth. So you've got to make sure that these are really great facts and details. The rest of your thinking and your ideas can be from your own brain, your own thoughts, your own opinions. But these 9 facts, these 9 pieces of evidence need to be facts and statistics or expert opinions from your article that you absolutely want to include. Okay? So we have to put a little thought into what might be a duh detail, so we can just say those things on our own and explain them on our own. So, research notes. When you take notes, there's a couple ways to think about it. You've got some convincing facts to pull out. These usually have numbers in them. That's how you recognize really convincing facts. These can be used to describe a problem or a solution using numbers, usually. Okay, another way to think about it is finding expert opinions. This is someone who you know has researched the topic or they have studied in some way and they are very well versed on the issue. And so you can quote them because that's a really interesting piece of information to include in your essay, and they might be more convincing than you are. For example, Nora Lustig, Principal Advisor and Chief of the Poverty and Inequality Unit says, quote, whatever. This would be from my Progressa essay. She's from the Poverty and Inequity Unit. So she's an expert researcher on Progressive program, and she can talk about if it's successful or not. Now, one thing I want to remind you is that it's not useful. Please don't take notes on obvious ideas that you could just explain yourself. Those things are ideas that you can just paraphrase and put into your own words on your own later in your essay. So don't cite the duh details. Don't even bother to put them into your notes. And certainly on this outline, you're saving the great stuff. You're saving convincing facts and expert opinions, and you're not going to put anything really obvious in here because these are reserved for important facts and details. So to give you an example of this, I've got a few examples. I don't want to see you writing in your notes things like, Progressa is targeting and helping the poorest households. That's from source D. Well, okay, obviously we know that's the case and we've read lots of articles. At this point, I would expect you to give me a better fact to prove how, or in the quantity or the number of households supported or helped in some way, so more specific. So a good note or a good fact would be that Progressa's interventions reduce the poverty level by 10%. The depth of poverty is reduced by 30%. And the severity index reduced by 45%. Do you see why this is a better fact or detail than this? Right. This is kind of like, well, duh. We know that this is a program that's targeting and trying to help the poorest households. I would not put that on my outline or bother to quote or cite that as a source as one of the facts for my source, because I've got so many better facts that are much more convincing, like this one here. Okay. Another example would be, don't write, Progressa has a positive enrollment effect for both boys and girls in primary and secondary schools. Okay, that's obvious if you read a lot of articles that Progressa has helped in a positive way. It's fine to say this in your essay. I'm just telling you that there are better facts and details that are more specific that should go on your outline. Okay, for example, in secondary schools, Progressa has helped proportional enrollment rates improve 8% for boys and 14% for girls. That's from source D. Do you see why this fact, this detail, this statistic is more useful than just saying it's improved enrollment? Okay, there's more specific, it's obviously more specific, and there are numbers. If you notice, if you look at both, there are numbers and they're more specific on this side, less specific and more general here. Okay? If you don't find these types of facts, statistics, etc., in your articles, you probably need to keep researching and find another article that does tell you that your solution has been proven to be successful, and this is how we know it's a successful solution. Okay, this proves by these numbers that this was a successful program. So when I go into reading my article, I'm really looking, when I zoom in here, when I look at this page, for example, does Progressa reach the poor? And I read through a lot of this. This just explains how they reach the poor. Targeting is relatively accurate. It's more successful in identifying extremely poor households. Okay. But really, when I look over here, I see more detail and facts that are useful to me. For example, this is the fact I had pulled out earlier. Progressive interventions reduce the number of people with income levels below the poverty level by 10%, the depth of poverty by 30%, and the severity index by 45%. That's more specific. That's going to be a fact that I want to pull out and put into my outline. Okay, so remember, the reason I'm showing you this now is because looking at our three body paragraphs, you've only got 3 opportunities here to convince me with facts or expert opinions that this problem is truly a big problem that affects a lot of people. You've only got 3 here and 3 here opportunities to prove that this solution can be successful and that you've seen it be successful, or you've seen an article. An article has been written to prove that this is successful. So again, today I just wanted you to be aware of the difference between good and bad in terms of the facts you pull out of your articles, because not all note-taking facts and details are all made equal. Okay, so get more specific, think about what's most convincing, and good luck.